Hi, I'm Chaotic Tunes, and before I do start this video, I would like to say something real quick. And that is, this video started off by me thinking, oh, this would be a funny, cool idea to make a video on, right? A hentai game. And it quickly evolved into becoming much more than that, because I thoroughly enjoyed making the script for this video, which, let me tell you, is double as long as my previous video. I really enjoyed making the drawing for this video. I thought it came out fantastic for my skill level, at least. I really enjoyed talking to the creator of this game and even getting to ask him some questions about it. And overall, just the entire idea of making this video is really exciting for me. Mostly because it goes to show that you can tell a meaningful story through any medium of media that you decide to put yourself out there, right? So it's without a doubt my favorite video to date, and it's probably gonna be super long, but if you do stick around and watch the entire thing, I would really appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. On a cool November night, I was introduced to Harem Hotel. If you're a weeb, you should have a clear idea of what the game is about. However, just in case you aren't, allow me to explain. You take over a hotel that your late grandfather was running, but not just any kind of hotel, as it is an all-females hotel. The goal is to have a harem living in the hotel while also running a successful business. It's pretty much a resource management plus dating simulator, and of course, the main drawing factor, the adult content that it has to offer. And I could sit here and tell you how fun the game is and how the animations are smooth, or I could tell you about how the story made me tear up. That's right, the story of how a hentai game brought me to tears. I originally wanted to focus on a couple of the stories in the game, however, just researching the first one took more than a day. So, by listening to my past and my psychological trauma, let's talk about the best girl, Ashley. So, who is Ashley? Well, Ashley is the first character to arrive at the hotel, though not the first tenant, as there is somebody living there already. The odd thing is that the hotel is nowhere near a town or a city, so the fact that she shows up out of nowhere without a ride or form of transportation is odd. But back to Ashley. She requests a room since she is attending a nearby college and was just kicked out of her house for, and I quote, having too many boys over. Of course, the situation of how she will be paying for the room comes up, to which she answers with, my mom will, but then looks at the player and says that she could pay by other means. Okay. She claims that she is joking and then proceeds to join the hotel. Occasionally, you are gonna see Ashley around the hotel, and she seems to be extremely nice, happy, and outgoing, and while talking to her, she even goes out of her way to compliment the hotel as well as the looks of the player, though she isn't a fan of the food. Yet. She then starts talking about college, and brings up Felicity, a classmate who she seems to truly hate, though we don't really know why. We chat a bit more and she calls it a night, after which you are able to visit Ashley at her room anytime that she is at the college. This is where I first noticed something that seemed a bit odd. Ashley sits on her bed with her legs bent and looking downwards. To me personally, she even looks quite sad. Also, speaking of odd behavior, Ashley seems to be much more open about her sexuality than all of the other hotel tenants, which, while yes, I understand it's an adult-oriented game, still seems a bit forced. At some points, you will also find Ashley in the utility room, and once again, she is sitting down, looking at the floor. A bit of a pattern at this point. After enough interactions with Ashley, you are able to visit her at college, which honestly isn't that intriguing at the moment. However, it is at this point that the player starts becoming a lot more involved in Ashley's life. As an example, Ashley pulls you into her room to help her with some math homework that she's struggling with, and while doing so, we found out that despite Ashley constantly having boys over, she never did anything with them due to her parents' controlling lifestyle. She proceeds to explain that her parents were very controlling and she is glad she has a place of her own where she is no longer under their control. And trust me, I've been there and it is extremely nice having a place to call your own. Soon after, we find Ashley having cake for what seems to be the very first time, as she's completely losing her mind over it. Well, that's because it is her first time having cake. A 20-year-old having cake for the first time in her life. Okay? She explains her parents never allowed her to have cake. Now, I don't know about you, but regardless of how strict your parents are, there is no way they never actually gave you cake in over 20 years of your life. And while she was eating the cake in my first playthrough, it's where I first noticed Ashley is very petite, like really. And while I understand that there definitely is petite girls, something just wasn't sitting well with me at this point. That same night, Ashley has a friend from school stay over at her room, which is nothing out of the normal for college students to do. However, it is here where Ashley finally gathers enough courage to hit the home run with the player. Wink wink nudge nudge, I hope you understand. And it is due to this occurrence that Ashley now believes that her and the player are in a relationship. Almost as if she had a bit of a twisted idea of what a relationship actually consists of. But nonetheless, the player and Ashley start dating. And what do couples do? That's right, they go on dates. So you proceed to take Ashley to the beach, and it is close enough to the hotel. And she seems excited to be there, and after a bit of conversation, she mentions that her parents rarely ever took her to the beach. Odd, but I guess not everyone is a beach type of person. She does also mention something that started ringing alarms in my head. Beaches are the only place I've constantly felt happy being at. I have so many good memories. And she says this while looking away and downwards. I don't care how strict of a parent you are, if your child is happy at the beach, wouldn't you want to take them often? It's not like they're strict enough not to want to take her to the beach since, well, they have taken her before. Odd, but your day proceeds to be normal and you finish it off by going back to the hotel. The good old safe hotel.
Psych!
You see, the next day you are met by arguing coming from the lobby. Turns out that Ashley's mom decided to visit her. Not really. She came to the hotel to pretty much fetch Ashley and bring her back home. She tries to force her to come home until the player steps in and mentions that she is old enough to have her own place. However, during this interaction, we do learn two crucial pieces of information. First, it wasn't her parents that kicked her out, rather just her dad. Second is that Ashley's mom has brown hair and is much taller than her. Might not seem that important, but it's good to keep tabs on little details. The argument is de-escalated. Ashley's mom leaves the hotel promising to tell her father about her and that she will be back for her, while Ashley just taunts her, claiming that the player and her are in a relationship. Okay then, again. But once she leaves, Ashley then proceeds to explain that her mom cannot find out that she's using her money to pay for the room. She then goes to her room and nothing interesting happens for the rest of the day. So, you know how boyfriends are meant to be sweet and thoughtful? Yeah, me too. So, I decided to visit Ashley at college to see how she was doing. We find out she's in the locker room taking a shower, to which I'm not gonna show any screenshots for obvious reasons, and overhear a conversation between her and another girl. The other girl says, "I'm simply saying, you're very small, abnormally petite. You're the shortest girl my age I know." And then bells just rang in my head. Like, I knew she seemed very petite, but now another character is, confirming it. The conversation continues with the classmate saying, "Your body isn't healthy, Ashley. Were you fed irregularly at a young age? I suspect your growth was stunted. This would explain your body shape." And then Ashley has enough and just turns off back to class. But these comments were made by Kate, a character I am extremely interested in, as I do believe she might be autistic. You see, she is extremely smart, but she lacks some basic knowledge on social cues. But this video is about Ashley, not Kate. You eventually meet up with Ashley back at the hotel, at which point she finally breaks a bit and starts talking about how awful all the other students are. She goes on to explain that all the boys ignore her and all the girls are jealous of her, resulting in nobody talking to her. They think that she is crazy, but she isn't crazy. She just wants them all to pay attention to her. She then insists that she's the cutest girl in school and that she does not like being ignored. Ashley obviously starts overthinking the situation and eventually arrives at a resolution. She believes that all the boys are ignoring her because she is dating the player, and they're all afraid that the player will beat them up if they try and get close to her. And the girls ignore her because they're all jealous that she is dating the player. She promptly breaks into laughter and claims that the player is the best boyfriend ever and that they will be together forever. Something I want to bring up real quick is this. Ashley explained that she was kicked out of her house because she had too many boys over, right? But then proceeds to tell us that all the boys ignore her. Those two statements are extremely contradicting. Though, I will be honest, it isn't something I noticed until the second playthrough. But back to where we were. Slowly, we start to realize that Ashley isn't right in the head. You see, after having a flirty conversation with Maria, another one of the tenants, Ashley shows up and threatens Maria to stay away and takes out a knife. She explains the player's souls and hers are connected because the player took her virginity. They will not be separated. From this point on, Ashley starts becoming much more protective of the player and who he is talking to. And this might seem like a problem in an all-female hotel, right? Wrong. Ashley gets along with the other girls fine. They're not friends, but they get along fine. And only becomes protective whenever one of the girls is talking to the player. Almost seems like it's a trigger for her. But like in real life, time passes and we notice a note on Ashley's door reading, "Gonna be at school all day. Need to catch up." This struck me as a bit odd since, well, she even went on her way to ask the player for help on her homework, and she seems to always be at school every day. So me, being a good boyfriend, I decided to check up on her and find out what is happening. Once you arrive at the college, you find Ashley and she explains that she hasn't been doing a lot of the work assigned and needs to catch up. Eventually, the conversation gets interrupted by the professor who questions who we are and what we are doing there. Ashley explains that I'm her boyfriend and I was just visiting her. The professor then quickly asked, "Is this man the reason you stopped bullying all the girls?" A bit curious, I read carefully when the professor starts lifting off examples of the girls Ashley was bullying. And there's a pattern. They're all well-endowed girls. And at this point, I know for a fact that Ashley is insecure of who she is. But why? The professor finishes explaining that the only issue with Ashley now is that she's not doing any of her work because she's always doodling in class. Ashley immediately responds with, "I was drawing us together at our wedding, chaotic." And it is at this point that I realize Ashley is really putting a lot of thought and effort into making things work with the player. At this point, Ashley starts spending more time in school to attempt to catch up with all of her missing work. So, like a good boyfriend, we visit her again the next day. However, when we arrive at the classroom, we notice another student talking to Ashley. Once you're close enough to hear what they're saying, you quickly realize that the girl is picking on her. And my first thought was, oh, this is Felicity. Nope, this is Emma. And she's there making fun of Ashley's capabilities on doing her math work. Ashley fights back, to which Emma responds and continues mocking Ashley's intelligence and reminding her that she is the dean's daughter. Eventually, the player intervenes and stops the aggression, sending Emma fuming out of the classroom, and Ashley is extremely thankful and proceeds to have a normal conversation with you. Let me look at the clock real quick. Oh, would you look at the time? It's time to rinse and repeat and visit Ashley at college again. This time though, before you reach Ashley, you are stopped by Emma and another girl. And we quickly learn that this is the infamous Felicity and her sister, Emma. They proceed to explain that they want payback for the player intervening yesterday, and you try to blow them off, to which they stop you. You see, they have some content that they could use to blackmail Ashley, and unless a player agrees to help them, they would release said content. They proceed to prank Ashley, to which she couldn't care less and continues to work normally. Until the important details pop up. Felicity talked to you in private and forced you to participate on the prank, which immediately sets Ashley off. Like always, she gets extremely defensive and tells the player to get her knife. Felicity and Emma promptly back off and the interaction ends. Honestly, at this point I should just enroll in the college because I'm just going there every day, huh? You see, when we visit Ashley again, we find Felicity and Emma yet again confronting Ashley because their prank backfired and got them in trouble. But you keep on eavesdropping and overhear that because of the prank, both of them had gotten suspended, and they aren't very happy about that. Ashley, on the other hand, just asks them a simple question. Why do you guys keep bullying me? Why won't you stop? Which seems like a sign of weakness from Ashley. Almost as if she honestly doesn't want to participate in this. But Emma eventually answered the questions with a simple, "Because you're a stupid bitch." No, that's not how you reply. At this point, the player decides to step in and tries to help Ashley, but because of certain actions, let's keep it that way, Ashley ends up getting suspended as well. And Now that Ashley's suspended, she now gets to spend a lot more time in the hotel, which she seems to be extremely happy about since, being in the hotel means that she can spend more time with the player. And out of the blue, Ashley goes up to you and asks you to take her on a fancy date. Apparently, she has some questions that she wants to ask you. Now, bear with me because this upcoming part has, some important information. Once we arrive at the restaurant, Ashley proceeds to ask several questions and allows us to ask her some as well. During this date, we learn some very interesting details. To begin with, Ashley clearly states that she likes to feel cute. Makes sense, since she seems a lot happier when the player calls her cute. The mood, however, drastically changes once the player asks her what her life was like before she moved to the hotel. Ashley responds with, "Oh, it sucked. I mean, obviously because you're ruining my life before I joined, but my parents were really strict. I guess they still are. As you know, my parents wouldn't let me eat cake because they thought it would make me fat. But they controlled every part of my life too. What I wore, what makeup I could put on, how I styled my hair, who I could talk to, stuff like that. My father isn't around much, and my mother and I fought a lot. She threw stuff at me. She's so crazy, she wouldn't even let me have a phone for the longest time. It's very liberating to be able to think for myself now that I live away from them, but it's pretty hard too. But you'll always be there, right? I'll always have you to trust and help me if things get rough, right?" Now, I get that this was quite a quote-heavy section, but one that I found very interesting as we get to see more of Ashley's backstory, and honestly, the way she thinks. And if I wanted to protect Ashley beforehand, after this part, I was set on her being the absolute best girl, no doubt, at me. Oh, right, another detail is that she wants to have 12 kids. Wait, 12 kids? Why the fuck would you want 12? Is that even possible? Anyways, 12 kids. The rest of the date goes on smoothly and nothing too interesting happens. Now, let's remember an important little detail. Ashley is on suspension, and if you were ever suspended from school, you will know that you still have to do all the work assigned. Now, Ashley is clearly not an academic and would struggle to keep up with all the work that was assigned to her. However, she is open to having someone else aid her in completing the work. Ashley, being Ashley, complains that it is a lot of work and it was too hard for her. However, after her classmate talks to her, she comes to the conclusion that the player would like her more if she was smarter, which I honestly found really cute. A few days pass and Ashley keeps at it and does her best to finish all of her work. However, when you visit her, we notice her sulking because she still has so much work to finish. However, something immediately stands out. Ashley now has hair that resembles her mom's, quite a bit. She now has brunette hair with a hairstyle that could scare managers in a 5-mile radius. Now, it's clear to see that Ashley has been far too focused on her work and forgot to take care of herself. Also, I guess dye her hair since we now know she isn't a natural blonde. Trying to help Ashley and help her release some stress, the player plans a day to help her get her mind off of things. We tell Ashley that we will be taking her to a park in the city, and she freaks out. Apparently, her parents never allowed her to see the city, and she is extremely excited to finally be able to see one. So, you go on ahead and take her to a park that overlooks the city, and Ashley is ecstatic that she finally gets to see the city. Later on in the date, Ashley starts opening up a little bit more to you, and she begins to say, "Sometimes I feel like I put on a mask, Like I'm hiding something, but I don't think I really am. It's like I'm trying to make the world happy for some reason, but I don't know why. It feels weird showing off my natural hair. Kind of in a good way. It feels different." To which Ashley immediately says that she will be dyeing her hair back to blonde and we shouldn't get used to it. I thought it was cute, but she does look great with her little 2 ponytails. Nonetheless, the date ends and both of you head back to the hotel. After this point, Ashley set on becoming more friendly with the other girls and attempts to be less territorial of the player. And then, Ashley's week-long suspension is finally over and the day for her to go back to school is finally upon her. While talking to her in the hotel, she seems extremely stressed about the whole thing. Well, turns out that if she doesn't achieve a passing grade, she will be dismissed from the college entirely. that's quite the stakes. She then asks the player if they could come to school with her, and the player agrees. You both finally get to the school, and Ashley goes into the classroom to see if she will be staying. However, before anything happens, she begins to have a panic attack. She starts panicking over the idea that despite of her best effort, she isn't enough. And I think it's something that we can all relate to at this point. Eventually, her professor steps in and asks her if everything is alright. Ashley gathers her composure and says that everything is fine. She goes into the classroom and notices that both Felicity and Emma are there as well. Since they were suspended as well, they need to see if their grades will be enough to allow them to stay in school. The professor then proceeds to read the final grades, and Ashley passes with a 97%, shocking both of the sisters. They proceed to throw a fit and claim that Ashley had cheated, as she had never achieved anything above a D. Now, I'm gonna be real with you. I was really proud of Ashley. Even though it's a game, I was so proud of her. Oh, right. Emma and Felicity are there as well, right? They both passed. Though Felicity is no longer welcome to attend the college, as the dean no longer sees her fit to be a part of it. Emma, not wanting to be split from her sister, decides to no longer attend the college as well. Both Emma and Felicity storm off and leave Ashley and the professor alone. And the professor takes the opportunity to ask Ashley if everything is okay, to which she says that yeah, she's perfectly fine. She then explains that she wants to do better at school so that she can have a good job that can help her sustain the large family she wants. And things seem to be getting better for Ashley, but they are so far from perfect. You see, shortly after is when we see Ashley hit absolute rock bottom. Some days after she's back in college, we come into her room completely pitch black and her sitting in her bed looking away and downwards. The player then asks Ashley if everything is okay, and Ashley attempts to brush it off and say that everything is perfect. Then the player asks her why she's sitting in her room completely dark, to which she responds by saying she didn't even notice. How can you not notice everything is completely dark around you? Eventually, the player, having enough, decides to confront Ashley about what really is happening. She begins to break down and begging the player not to leave her, which honestly broke my heart. And then to finish shattering my heart, she goes and says, "You're the only good thing that's ever happened to me." After some more persuasion, Ashley finally agrees to tell us what's wrong, as long as the player promises not to leave her. It is now that we get to fully dive into Ashley's backstory before she joined the hotel. Now, I will need you to sign this permission slip for the field trip we're about to embark on. It turns out that Ashley was born into an extremely impoverished family, to the point where they didn't even have enough to eat. This would go to explain why her growth may have been stunted. We also learned that Ashley's father was extremely abusive towards her, when she would only be looking for something to eat. We then fast forward a little bit to Ashley's first day at school, where we learned that at a young age, Ashley already hated the way she looked. Which honestly, it's heartbreaking for a kid to be thinking like this already, right? And she isn't too excited to go to school, but then she becomes encouraged when she can finally make friends. Though, once again, it's sad to read her response as she says, "What are friends like? How can a kid not have friends? Like, that's the main goal of a kid." She then goes on to tell the player, "I waited for the bus, and it came on time. My heart was beating so fast. I was so excited to make a friend. Maybe even two." It is at this point that we learn why she still hates how she looks and why she hates Felicity. Who would guess that those two things would be connected? You see, on their first encounter, Felicity came up to Ashley only to say, "You're kind of ugly. Are you poor? You look poor." And before Ashley could even get a word in, Emma joins Felicity in bullying her by stating, "Yeah, she looks really ugly. Her hair's all gross and stuff." This would explain why Ashley doesn't like her natural hair, as she's expressed by saying, "They said my hair looked ugly." So, in an attempt to make her hair look better and make friends, Ashley steals money from her sleeping father to dye her hair her iconic blonde color. Ashley arrives at school the next day excited to make friends now that her hair is blonde, only for it to backfire on her and resulting in more bullying from Felicity. One of Ashley's classmates approaches her and suggests that maybe she can style her hair to make it look better, so she does. The next school day arrives and Ashley is even more excited this time in the hopes to finally make some friends. And yet, once again, Felicity comes around to destroy Ashley's hopes and dreams of making some friends. You see, Felicity truly wanted to destroy Ashley's hopes for some reason, and I know that reason, but that's something I might save for a different video. Despite Felicity's constant bullying though, Ashley finally succeeds at making a friend and heads home very excited, only to be met by her abusive father. They get into a heated argument and results in a broken TV. Ashley then runs to her room and locks herself in out of fear. Eventually, her dad is able to break down the door, and Ashley flees again and runs towards the kitchen. This is where Ashley, in an attempt to defend herself, grabs a knife. Her knife. The knife successfully drove away her dad, and ever since she kept it around to make herself feel safe. The next day at school, Ashley just wanted to be accepted. However, in an attempt to do so, she bullied another girl the exact same way Felicity had bullied her. Over time, Ashley attempted to make friends with little success. And once she was over 19, her father kicked her out of the house and resulting in her ending up at the hotel. Back to present time, Ashley explains to us a couple of things. Remember my earlier statement where I said Ashley liked being cute and that she was much more open about her sexuality than any other character in the game? Well, she explains why. I heard boys like sex a lot, so I offered sex a lot. And I know boys like it when a girl is cute and everything, so I acted cute and everything. Anything for a friend, and anything for someone who likes you no matter what. It is here where I finally realized that Ashley had been acting this whole time. She had been extra nice and cute and open about her sexuality in an attempt to keep me around and not leave her. She just wanted someone who liked her for who she is. And I honestly shouldn't be crying because I've already done 3 playthroughs. And yet it still gets to me. However, after this point, Ashley is more open about her emotions and even goes to befriend one of the tenants and successfully hangs out with them as just a pair of friends. After this point, I'm gonna play the song that plays in the game at this moment in this cutscene, because it honestly adds so much more to the emotions that are felt throughout that entire interaction. Later that night, when the player is about to go to bed, Ashley shows up telling him to follow her since she wants to show him something. Ashley leads us outside and to a forest that, keep in mind, is pitch black. However, we quickly notice that Ashley is walking through the forest as if it was the middle of the afternoon. She doesn't hesitate at any point to take a step, so we ask Ashley how she's doing this, and when she turns around, we notice something odd. Her eyes are glowing a dark pink, a trait that is only found in descendants of dark elves. She then continues to walk through the forest and constantly reminding us to be quiet. We finally arrive at a little secluded beach that Ashley calls paradise. She explains that a couple times a week she decides to escape to this little paradise so she can finally be herself. It is in this little beach that Ashley finishes opening up to us about who she is and why. And what's so great about this little scene is we are giving a multitude of questions to ask Ashley while we just relax in this little beach. The very first question we get to ask is a simple one. How is she doing in college? She seems happy to tell us that despite the fact she does not like it, she has been acing all of her assignments and it is something she needs to do to support her big family. And as soon as I finished reading that, something stood out to me. In that statement, she does not mention the player at all, unlike all of the previous times where she includes the player into her big family. However, I was not prepared for the next interaction. We get to talk to Ashley about a very touchy subject, her depression. When bringing it up, the player says, "Sometimes it can be really hard to reach out when you're feeling down. I know you have depression and you can talk about it if you want. I'll listen." A statement that I found very true to life, as you should never push anyone to tell you something that they aren't comfortable with sharing. However, It does seem as if Ashley is finally starting to trust us more and replies with, "Thank you. You have no idea how much it means to hear someone say that." I feel lonely, I guess. I have a lot of really nice people around me, but I feel like none of them really get me. Everyone sees me as someone who's really happy or someone who can be a bit crazy sometimes. It's not their fault though. That's all I show everyone after all. But there's more than what everyone sees. There's a sad girl inside me who never really had people she could call a family in all of her life. Nobody sees that part of me. I guess I don't want anyone to see that part of me. When I'm alone, it feels like none of it matters. Like, who cares if I have friends? Who cares what happened in the past? But the loneliness only hides the pain. It's still there deep inside. And I know through this video we've seen Ashley open up about her feelings beforehand, but I feel like this one just has a lot more meaning to it. For example, back in the park, she said she felt like she was putting up an act, but she didn't really think she was, and yet here we are with her in a pitch dark beach, with her expressing how she really feels. It feels sad, and yet somehow full of hope. And then we get to ask her, why does she want so many kids? And she pokes a little fun at us saying, well, you haven't figured it out yet, which I guess is a valid statement. But she goes to explain that she wants to be a good mother to her kids and give her kids a good father, a good family, a happy family, something she never had. Now, I understand this video has gone on for a long time, and trust me, I was not expecting it to be this long, but I got carried away by the surprise that a meaningful story was told in the last form of media I would expect to tell such a story. Carried away by the attention to detail spread throughout the story, and especially carried away but what I can only explain as seeing some part of me in Ashley. It's honestly a fantastic game, and I cannot wait to play more and learn more of the story. Because even though I only covered crucial moments and the video carried on so long, Ashley's story does not end here. I'm sure there is so much more to know about her. But before I get to the Q&A with the creator of the game, I want to close off the video with Ashley's most hard-hitting statement. Do you think I have a future? I feel as if it's something we can all relate to. We've all thought if what we're doing will truly provide for us, if what we're passionate about will secure us our life. It can be scary, and sadly, I cannot give you an answer. All I can say is to keep moving forward and pushing for the dream you want. Don't let anyone stop you. I'm sure that at this point you are extremely tired of hearing my voice. It's been well over 30 minutes, and it gets tiring. But I do have a little Q&A that I did with the creator of the game, and I would like to share that with you. However, I did get a good friend of mine to voice over the lines of the answers that the creator gave me. So let's get into that real quick. I first asked, did you expect Harem Hotel to blow up the way you did?
Not at all. This is my first attempt at creating a story or even publishing a game. I had very low expectations. I had even doubted if I would ever get a $20 pledge. I thought whatever I created would be worth $5 at most if I ever decided to sell it. Harem Hotel will always be free though. What has happened since has blown my mind. I never dreamt I could be where I am now, doing what I love and making it my career. Story writing, world building, character progression have all become a passion of mine.
Was the main goal the adult-oriented content, or was it the story the characters have?
To be honest, I first decided to make a porn game. It was only until version 0.3 or version 0.4 I realized people actually liked the world I created. I've always loved world building. I've even hosted my own Dungeons & Dragons campaigns. So when I realized I could combine my love for world building with my love for creating games, I just did that. Now, writing the story is the best part of my job and what I look forward to the most. And I think that's why most people like Harem Hotel.
How far do you want Harem Hotel to go?
If you mean the story, very far. I have ambitious plans, but I don't want to say too much. I wouldn't want to spoil you.
Who was the first character you came up with?
Unsurprisingly, it was Lin. I had developed her before Harem Hotel was even a thought.
Now this is a really important one. Who is your favorite character?
I have a top 3 in no order: Ashley, Lynn, and the android.
How did you come up with the idea for the game?
There's no simple answer to this, to be honest. I think I can summarize it best with write what you know. Harem Hotel takes on an array of topics, both lighthearted and fairly deep.
Can we know what's in the works for Harem Hotel?
Story, and lots of it. Sex too, of course. I would be remiss not to. But the world is growing.
Is there anything you would like to tell us?
You've all made me very happy. I don't know where I'd be otherwise.
And this last one I kind of left up to him if he wanted to answer, and he did, which I'm extremely grateful for. And I asked him, is Kate autistic?
Kate is autistic, specifically Asperger's. As am I. Right what you know, after all.
And honestly, after asking him these questions, I was honestly really surprised by the fact that this is his first game. This is the first time he ever worked on something like this and created a project of this size. And he even goes to say that he was not expecting this to even, get any attention at all. And yet here we are with his Discord with well over 500 members and a Patreon that I'm very excited to, see those updates. Once I get a job again, I'll make sure to, support him. But if you're interested in playing the game for yourself, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you do. It's a fantastic game and it's extremely entertaining. If you're trying to waste away a couple of hours because you're bored or you have nothing to do, give it a try. After all, the game is, as he said, entirely free. However, it would mean a lot to me and especially to him if you did, support him. Like he said, he wants to turn this into his career, and I'm all up for people, pursuing what they love and making something out of it. And this was an extremely long video. Like it took a long time to edit and get it all done, but it was really, really cool to do, and I'm really happy with the outcome. Even if people don't watch till the end, I'm still very thankful for the few that will. But I would love to hear your opinion. Do you think this would be something you're interested in? Would you like me to talk more about the other characters in the game? Is there something you would like me to cover? Something you want me to look into? I would really love to hear your input. But like I said, put that down below in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like. If you enjoyed my content, I'd really appreciate if you hit that subscribe button. We reached 500 subscribers a couple of days ago. Super excited about that. I will be working on the 500 subscriber special. And here's to 2021 to hopefully be a much better year. Oh, and yeah, don't do drugs because those things are bad for you.